You see, actually, it did make me think about how important grandparents can be in a child's life, you know, and I was very close to my grandparents, and yet I didn't see them an awful lot because my dad was in the army, you know, we travelled, so we'd maybe see them once or twice a year, and yet I always remember that very special connection, and they were quite different, both sets of grandparents. But, you know, I can even remember the smell of my grandma's house, and, you know, she always had cough sweets in her pocket. She always smelled slightly of cough sweets, but I quite loved that. And I do worry sometimes now maybe children don't have the same connection with grandparents because, you know, families are so spread out now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you worry about that?
I think you have to work at it. I think I don't mean work hard at it, because it shouldn't be something you have to work really, really hard at unless they're a long way away. But I think that there is some automatic bond between kids and their grandparents, as long as you just let it happen. And I think maybe it's not all about quality time, it can be about boring time as well, where they're just sitting together, maybe watching a movie together or reading a book, particularly. That's what my children's grandparents used to do with them. And you just need to enable that bond to happen.
But of course with Skype now, Anne, it's really easy to talk to your grandchildren every day. My Auntie Vi talks to her granddaughter Alice in Kingston, just outside of London, every single day. And of course, my Auntie Vi's in Llandudno and she's housebound. So technology has made it easier for little kids to connect with their grandparents. Obviously, nothing is as good as seeing them.
Actually, technology was really key as well in my kids bonding with their grandparents, because and generally older people, because they could teach them how to use their iPads or iPhones or whatever else.
Do you know, one of the funniest things I saw was one Christmas was Jack and my mum doing Michael Jackson's Thriller on the Wii. Funniest.
The Wii was really
funniest
good at that,
thing, and bowling.
Yes.
You know, you could do all those games.
The Wii? Were they sitting on the loo?
No,
I imagine they're both sitting
No, it's a gadget, Janet. It's a game. It was kind of, you know, it's an electronic game, reactive games. You could pretend to play tennis and bowling.
Yeah.
But my mum doing Michael Jackson's Thriller is a sight to be seen.
I loved going to. I didn't get on very well with my mother, with my dad's mum. That granny, the one I said earlier, was a bit stinky of milk. But my grandparent was my granddad was my inspiration. He'd left school when he was 10 or 11. They're a really poor family, and then he became a train driver on the Underground. He was on the Piccadilly line, and also he knew so much about gardening, and they grew all their own vegetables. And he just used to encourage me.
That's where you got your green fingers from.
Yeah, and also he had his own little library at home, and he was always doing experiments, and he just rose above what he'd been born into and how he'd grown up.
What about Rafferty? Does he love being with his grandparents?
Oh my God! I mean, he loves it. And the thing is that Nanny and Grandad's can spoil them rotten. Everything we try and put in place, Nanny and Grandad come over and it's all out the window. And Rafferty absolutely, obviously loves that. He can have a bit of Chucky, you know, and he can watch TV for a bit longer and dance to the cartoons for a bit longer with Mickey Mouse. All of that stuff is wonderful. And Jack had a really wonderful bond with his nan. My family was a bit sort of disjointed, and so I didn't have a great sort of relationship with my nan and Grandad on my mum's side. But my Irish nan used to take me to school every day, and I loved her madly. And Jack's nan, he said out of everybody in his family, the bond that he had that was the closest was probably with his nan. And every day after school, he would get on the bus. It took him ages to get there from where she lived. And she'd make him his favourite, you know, potato and cheese bake, and just those home comforts, you know. That sort of thing, I think it's a bit idyllic. I do think it's not the case for everybody.
Well, this is the problem, because I have in my head that kind of idyllic scene, an idyllic relationship I would like Jack to have with his grandma, but there's a distance. It's not that far, actually, but it's actually... life gets in the way a bit, you know, and so...
You've got to think about it at Christmas, because there's more lonely people in Britain now than ever. I think there was something in the paper today, so like, they estimate there are 9 million lonely people this Christmas, and a large proportion of them will be grandparents who want to hear from their, you know, grandchildren, even if it's only on the phone. But as I said, Skype's really good.
Well, I think, like Anne said, you have to kind of train them a bit, because I've done that with Jack also. Right, before he phones me, I go, right, phone Grandma, ask her about the cat, ask her about the garden, don't mumble. He's like this, yes, Mum.
But that will stay with him.
Up.
It'll stay with him. It's sort of training, isn't it?
It is a bit.
And it will stay with him, and he'll always value that. And later on, when he can do these things himself, he'll want to.
I've just realised my mum watches this. Now she knows. But when Jack phones you tomorrow and goes, hello, Grandma, how's the cat, how's How's the garden? It's cold, isn't it? I don't know where that's
So you don't really want to know.
I love it when Ruth's halo slips.
For more Loose Women action, click here. And I'd subscribe if I were you. It's totally free and it means you'll be kept up to date with new videos and exclusive YouTube content.